This is very scary stuff, isn't it? Vladimir Putin does look like he's hell-bent on an invasion.
It seems so. Really, the rhetoric has been ramping up and up and up. We've seen for the last few years that Putin has a real obsession with Ukraine. He sees no difference between the Russian and Ukrainian people. He's openly writing letters declaring that the two nations are together. He's violated international law on many occasions. This is just another step in a long-running history of Putin expanding what he views to be his Russian world, his idea of a Russian civilization that goes outside of the borders of Russia. And there's no real stopping to this. Who knows where he will go next of this? There's plenty of territories surrounding Russia that he could lay claim to. And as it stands, there's very little right now which is stopping him. Sanctions don't appear to be deterring him. And the West has not been united enough to prevent military escalation.
And yes, we have heard, that he's just testing the waters, really, and he's sort of trying to gauge what the NATO alliance and how they might react to that. And that's why there is a lot of pressure to act strongly, isn't there, this morning? And this morning, the UK government ministers met and they said they agreed a significant package of sanctions, which they'll be announcing in the Commons a bit later today. You mentioned there that you don't think sanctions will do much damage at this point. Can you see any sorts of sanctions that the Prime Minister might announce later that actually would have a considerable impact?
The most important thing that the Prime Minister is doing is limiting Russia's access to foreign capital, mostly limiting Russia's ability to use the dollar and the pound in international markets, limiting its access to international capital markets in general. This is going to hit the Russian economy very, very hard. But other proposals that we've heard, such as limiting Russia from international payment systems such as SWIFT, will not be as effective as the West believes, because Russia has already stated that they're prepared for these eventualities. They plan ahead of this for their aggressions. They also already have agreements with a Chinese payment system already in place in case these sanctions come into play. So I think over the last few years, Russia has really built its economy around an idea of autarky, around a resistance to foreign sanctions. So I personally don't believe that sanctions currently will be enough. We will see how far they escalate, but it will take a real economic bombardment to stop Russia's aggression.
Now, what was it like for you on the ground? Where were you based? And, I suppose what was behind, obviously I can guess, but what was behind your decision to leave the country, really? And what were you experiencing at the time?
Well, it's very strange when you're a foreigner in Kiev. I was based in Kiev, in the capital of Ukraine, and there's a real disconnect between the locals and the foreigners. The foreigners are receiving updates from the embassies telling them to leave at all costs. The Australian embassy was warning people if they remained, they might die. There was all sorts of extremely heated rhetoric. I ultimately decided that the news and the information I was reading supported the assessment of the embassy, and so I decided it'd be better for me to carry on my work from Europe. Also, if there's the risk of invasion, then my newspaper could easily be cut off from the internet, and it would therefore be beneficial for me to be writing in Europe. But the mood is very strange. The mood is very relaxed. Ukrainians have suffered through the threat of war for the last 8 years. This is nothing new as such. Yeah. So when you're trying to understand where this resilience comes from, it's from 8 years of incessant war, incessant torture of Ukrainians, incessant political pressure from Russia. Normal Ukrainian citizens have become accustomed to this. So life goes on. Late night bars are doing a roaring trade. All the restaurants are open. It's very amusing to see these Western journalists right now on Twitter being very confused that there are trendy restaurants still working in Kiev and that people seem to be going around as normal. What is the alternative for these people? You either carry on as normal or you take up a gun.
Yeah, just very quickly, sorry, because we are very pressed for time. I'm possibly going to get shouted out for this, but do you think we'd be in this position now if Donald Trump was still president?
I don't think that it would have been any different. Maybe the reaction might have been different. Maybe we would have seen, I reckon there would have been more concessions made to Russia by the West, perhaps. But I think the position right now is not just the position of Biden. We have a very solid Western coalition against Russia right now, which is a very, very good thing. I don't know if that would have developed under President Trump. but I think we might have seen maybe a stronger US position.